Hello, everyone. Welcome to our daily homeroom. For those of y'all, this is the first time you're joining us. This is a live stream we're doing on a daily basis. The catalyst was the school closures that are now around the world. Over 1.6 billion students around the world are who normally would be attending school are no longer doing that, at least for the time being. And what we see our responsibility as a not-for-profit with a mission of providing a free world-class education for anyone, anywhere. It's always been in service to teachers, to parents, to students, to make sure that folks can have the best possible learning experience. And we realize that especially in this time of school closures, it's our duty to step up and figure out how we can support you, the parents, the students, the teachers out there, how we can support school districts. And we're going to have a really robust conversation about that today. And I do want to remind everyone, we are a not-for-profit organization, and we are able to do what we do because of philanthropic donations from folks like yourself. So if you're in the position to do so, please think about donating to Khan Academy. I want to give a special thanks to several corporate partners who recently stepped up to support these efforts to keep Khan Academy going so that we can keep everyone learning. Bank of America, AT&T, Google.org, and Novartis. If any of your corporations are thinking about it, they should contact us as well. We were running at a deficit even before this crisis hit, and now our costs have gone up dramatically to support our servers, which are now 2.5, 3x normal load, and all the other programs that we would like to support parents, teachers, and students with. And so our deficits are even larger. So if you can, please support us. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest, Dr. Jesus Jara, who's the superintendent at Clark County School District. They are the fourth or fifth largest school district in America. This is Greater Las Vegas, for those of y'all who might not be as familiar with Clark County. And I'm excited about this conversation. We've partnered with Dr. Jara actually at Clark County and in his previous world when he was working in Orlando. But Dr. Jara, maybe a good place to start. How are you and your family doing, first of all, before we get into
Well,
the...
first, yeah, before we get into the work, well, first of all, Sal, just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to show a little bit. We're all safe and sound home. I got two college kids that have been working online and doing some of their online learning at both institutions. So we're just staying home, staying home for Nevada, as our governor has continued to remind our folks, and learning a new world of education here, and also administrating the administration really, and helping our hardworking teachers and principals from our computers. So it's been a little bit of a challenge in moving into this direction, but we're doing well. Thank you.
And I mean, just going into that a little bit, I've been curious as over the last, everyone's been fighting their own crises over the past 4 or 5 weeks, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective as a superintendent of a large, complex school district. When did it get on your radar that something like this might happen? And, as best as you can, kind of play it out. When did it become clear it was going to happen? How did you scenario plan? What are you trying to optimize for now?
Yeah, no, and when it started, we had early conversation. I was having discussion with some of our partners here on the Strip, and they said, hey, what are you guys doing for the coronavirus? And I immediately brought my team in, and that was in late February to start putting and rolling out our emergency management plan in place. As a school system, we always dealing with a lot of different issues. And I recall the day I was March 4th. I was up in Carson City in Reno for a discussion, a superintendent meeting, and the county commission chair called, and immediately we had our first case. And I can tell you, playing out from that first case from here in Las Vegas, to some of the issues that just evolved rather quickly in a matter of hours, to start just really calming down the community and learning and understanding what that meant for children, because obviously the first case was an adult, but then it's then the quarantine and getting the guidance from the CDC, and then really from the first week to the first week and a half, it's just from learning from the experts, learning from our medical experts on processes, and putting and enacting our plan. That it seems like it's been 6-7 months, where we're only a month and a week in, and really preparing for what happens for school closure, and everything as a superintendent just evolve, and calling and working with some of the the longstanding superintendents that have been in this business to try to understand, but this is unlike any other emergency. As you mentioned, I came from Florida, and when we first started, in really closing schools for hurricanes, right? But there's always that end point, and how do you start your continuity program? This is different. This is so different than preparing for a hurricane or any other disaster. This has just been moving and learning in uncharted waters. But then the impact that I see here, that I see unlike any other place that I've been at, it's just really the impact, because our kids and our families, and then as we shut down, as the governor appreciate, the leadership from the governor's office to shut down the entire state in education, all our facilities, then within 2 days, all the businesses shut down. So now is how do we start going through all of that, providing the essentials. With our kids, 68% of our children are on free and reduced lunch. So it was preparing for how are we going to feed our kids and our families. So it just to backpedal, moving to getting the essentials, the safety first, getting them home, then feeding them, and then start moving into our distance learning education program. Like I said, it's been something that it's taken us a week or two to start getting in the groove, but then it always continues to evolve and change and continue to learn and make sure that our kids are engaged.
That's super useful. And for those of y'all listening, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can put questions in the message boards. We have team members who are looking at them, and I'll try to surface those to Dr. Jara. This is a great opportunity to ask questions of a superintendent who's running a very large, complex school district. If you're pretty much in any other urban area, the questions that you would ask your superintendent are just as applicable as the stuff that Dr. Jara is facing. But Dr. Jara, talk a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of, for lack of a better word, civilians imagine, okay, the school district, they teach some stuff, maybe you have to go online a little bit, but there's all these other social services that the school district provides around lunches. There's also questions of equity around internet access. How did that play out with you and your team, especially that first weekend? I remember when it started to become clear that schools were going to have to close.
Yeah, no, and that was part of, we started preparing for that closure. What is that closure going to look like? And then the team started putting together learning opportunities, so we can have paper pencil. When you look at the poverty level, we are the 5th largest district. We have 320,000 kids. 68% of our are free and reduced lunch. That means there's that level of poverty. And we did not have a digital one-to-one device as a school system and as a state, so we had the inequities there as well. So it was whatever learning opportunities that we're going to put out there on a paper pencil, we're also going to give our kids access. So one of the things that we originally started with, it was really the main essentials, because as I mentioned, our food insecurity is also very high. So bringing in our food department, our food service, we started with 15 sites across our school system to feed our community, to feed our children to come in. And at the same time, as we're doing that, then we also put out our learning opportunities, not only on the website, but then we started printing paper copies. So then you were getting a meal, and it was just, watching and seeing our kids. And I visited so many of them, our parents were there, and our families and our kids. And one of the things that was very popular for the parents was the learning opportunities, the homework, the homework packets, not so popular for our kids. But it was really a way to keep them engaged, but their focus was, again, the safety and the mental health. So we moved into from 15 very rapidly because we saw the gaps across our 360 schools. We currently have 38 different feeding sites where we continue to have the packets there. Then we started rolling out our one-to-one devices, our Chromebooks that we had in inventory, and our first priority was our high school seniors. We wanted to make sure that our high school seniors, we were not going to have them suffer their graduation and their opportunity. So we started deploying Chromebooks. We're a Chromebook school system, so we started deploying for our high school seniors and then our credit-bearing high school students, for those that did not have devices. Also a big gap there. We had about 64% of when you look at our inventory, 64% of our students who did, had devices, the other ones did not. So, immediately reallocated dollars from the federal government to purchase devices. So we purchased 46,000 devices that are just coming in now, moving rather quickly. Then we reached out to our community partners, Cox Communication, to offer the Wi-Fi. Then we bought some, moving rather swiftly in purchasing the hotspots as well, so we can distribute that. Again, that is all student driven. Our principals doing a phenomenal job of really working with our teachers, and then our teachers now starting to, for those kids that had the opportunity for the learning opportunities, for the teachers to start connecting with our students online through, normal, their Google Hangout and their Google Meetup and some of those platforms that we have available. And then, in some cases, even phone calls, because again, the digital divide for us was great. But I can tell you, this community has stepped up significantly to provide opportunities for our students. So those were some of the most immediate, and now we are monitoring. As a matter of fact, as you mentioned, we're great partners. Our assessment now, we're having deep conversations internally. Is what do we do with, now that we have everything, I think, settled. We look at our distribution, our instruction. Principals are now doing virtual faculty meetings. So a lot of these things that we're getting into a groove. Even we're in spring break this week, so which is good. It's letting us catch our breath to then kickstart. So now we're looking at, okay, what are we going to do now for the next 6 weeks? Whether we don't know whether we're going to come back to school. It's now providing professional development for professional learning for our teachers, for our administrators. So when our kids come back, our children come back to school, is how do we get to close out the year, and then really looking at the data to start addressing some of the gaps. And I know that we're big partners with you, with Khan Academy and Map Accelerator, and also our NWEA partner. So we're looking at how we do that now to get ready to start. You'll be proud, I'll tell you, out of our numbers in 3 through 8th, the number I received this morning, out of 165,000 students in that grade level, 144,337 have been on Map Accelerator, at least doing some of that individual support and really building up, from what they had in their aligned to their RIT score on MAP. So we're MAP growth. So we're really at least excited to see that there's some engagement at home. And I told the team we need to continue to push that out. It's not replacing the teacher, but in these times, it's giving us an opportunity for some engagement in the classroom and in the online classroom at school and at home.
Wow, no, it's incredible what you're doing. I don't think people fully appreciate some of what you just said. I just want to underline it. I mean, you're thinking about feeding hundreds of thousands of kids, and then you deploying internet access with devices to, sounds like, tens of thousands of households in a matter of days. Just that is a major challenge. But for the way you're describing, that's kind of the baseline, and then from that you can build on top of that virtually. And for those of you who aren't familiar, what Dr. Jara is referring to, this MAP Accelerator, this is a partnership we've done with the NWEA, which is they provide the MAP growth assessment, where that assessment now acts as a diagnostic, as a placement for work on Khan Academy. And Clark County is actually one of the first districts that we've partnered with around this. We did a pilot this past year where Dr. Jara can see a dashboard of what's going on, how the kids are using MAP Accelerator. I'm really heartened by those numbers. And this is an interesting idea, because this notion of online learning, we've obviously been talking about the value of it to let students learn at their own pace, remediate gaps, et cetera, before this crisis. But it is interesting how it's evolved, that it's something you could lean on maybe a little heavier when we're in a crisis situation like this. I'm getting a lot of questions here. Let's see, from YouTube, Craig Yen asks, how are you supporting your teachers with distant learning?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and that's one of the things that we, again, moving quickly into in a week or so into a digital learning platform for teachers, and that's one of the things that I just had a great conversation this morning with the team, is to now continue to support our teachers, and what does that look like? So we're putting together a learning plan, for the next 6 weeks, and then for the summer. We haven't done that in the past. as an entire system. So it's something that now, in conversations with the Department of Education here in the state of Nevada, is we're going to put together some of our experts and across the state and start providing using another platform, Canvas, to then provide some content for our teachers. And then also looking at some of these model lessons as well. One of the things that we're going to start requesting from our teachers is to start sharing some of their lessons so that we can then put them on a platform for others. At the school level, our principals have done a great job in really doing some PLCs. That's all online, doing some PLC professional
What does
learning.
PLC stand for? Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, professional learning communities within their grade level and specific to the schools, led by the administrators or their content experts at the school. So that's happening at individualized school level, and then obviously providing support for the teachers as well, during their weekly faculty meeting. One of the other aspects that we're now, as we're looking at, is the analyzing the use of data. So we're going to start taking that time to do that now as we're closing out the year.
Yeah, and I have two related questions. I'll combine them. One from Facebook, Rebecca Nelson says, do you foresee Clark County embracing distance learning for next school year, even if the kids are able to return to school? Maybe modify that as online learning or some permutation. How is the distance learning changing the mindset of educators? And then related to that, Scott Yang is asking on Facebook, Dr. Jara, do you think school can resume normally? How do you think school will resume?
Yeah, those are two great questions, and that's where we're challenging ourselves. I mean, because we're thinking our kids are going to come back, they're going to enjoy, this new way of learning. So I've challenged the team as we move forward to look at how we're going to capitalize on where we are to provide opportunities for distance learning. So it's a conversation we're having. I think as a district, it's stretched us, our mindset to then start moving forward to provide different opportunities. So do I predict it's going to be a lot different? I believe it is, and we're going to have to evolve and move quickly to be able to get to that. So it's going to be different and maybe more project-based, and these are the conversations that we're having now as a team for the next year.
And are there conversations happening, or is it just too far ahead? Are people talking about what if the virus picks back up in the fall, or we loosen social distancing and it picks back up? How are y'all thinking about that, or is that just too far out right now?
Well, Sal, this is why I love you. Push me to think all the time. We were thinking that we may come back to school when we come back to school in August. When we do that, we weren't thinking about having to come back. It's a good question to ask. We were thinking that once we come back when it's safe, we'll just start over. It's just going to be different and innovative, and I think that's where we are. But we'll just, at least now, as I say to the team, we know how to shut down a school district rather quickly. We can start it back up, but not yet. Not yet us to coming back and having to close again because of the virus.
Yeah, and I can't imagine the complexity you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, much less through a crisis like this. So we have a related, you touched on it a little bit, but there's two questions, and this is a question I've been getting a lot too, and I am curious to get more depth. From YouTube, username July is asking, how can you make sure that all kids in your district have a chance to learn online? Do they have necessary equipment like laptops, tablet, or internet? And then from YouTube, Sixtus106 asks, Dr. Jara, what are you doing to support kids who don't have internet? You mentioned a little bit this rollout of Chromebooks. You got more Chromebooks or devices. You're trying to, where are we? Do all of your kids now have access, or there's still a subset that don't, and how are you handling that?
So that our first week, when we took attendance, our first week, which was 3 weeks ago, we have 21, we're still looking for 20, back then, March 23rd through the 27th, only, we're missing 21% of our students that we had not been able to contact. So now we're putting our social services, we're putting our social workers, we're putting call outs into the community. If you have not heard from us, at least back then, is that you need to contact the school and continue that conversation as we continue to take attendance. There's still the huge digital divide that we have, and we have our Public Ed Foundation as well that has in our community, very giving community that has started a campaign to raise money for us, not only for the device, but for the hotspots, but also for the professional learning for the students, for the parents, and for our teachers. So it's a work in progress, to be quite candid with you.
And related to that, we have a bunch of questions about the remainder of the year. Facebook, Yolanda Brenez, Facebook, Denise Puckett, on YouTube, Liana Garcia Crespo. They're all asking some version of, is it for sure that schools are going to be remain closed through the end of the year? And then a related question from Facebook, Tammy Harveston is asking, will graduations be canceled or postponed?
So, we're waiting. When the governor closed the school, it was, it'll be depending, if we open, it'll be depending on the state chief health officer to make that determination. We've seen others across the country that have made the decisions not to reopen. So it's a wait and see. So we don't have that information. I've asked for at least a week lead time for us to be able to reopen. It just depends on where we are. As a matter of fact, having conversations this morning with the team, and I'm calling in next Wednesday. I will be meeting virtually with all our senior class presidents from our schools. We got 49 high schools to get ideas, because we have some ideas about how we do graduations in May. I don't foresee that because our partner, University of Nevada, Las Vegas here, UNLV, is where we host, and they're closed and they've canceled their graduations, postponed them. So we don't have the facility. So we're going to call out our seniors. I am, to talk to them and get some ideas from them. Because my greatest idea is not, I'm not at their appropriate age group. So I'm going to get some of their ideas to see how we do this.
Yeah. And what about credit generally? Is it still kind of a work in progress? Things like grades, is there a way that you don't have a point of view on that yet?
We do. The state just released some guidance and working with all superintendents. So we're working together. We're going to our third marking period. We opened up, which is right. It closed as soon as we were finishing, and we ended up closing school. So we've opened up the third marking period for all our high schools and our schools for credit bearing, and across the board secondary schools as well, for students to make up any assignments that that they missed or wanted to redo. So that's available. And then now we're having the conversations about what we do for the fourth marking period and graduation requirements. The state has left it up to us. So next week we'll be, meeting with our senior high school principals and put some of those requirements out for our high school seniors, and then also having conversations with our higher ed partners, because I didn't want our students, because of this pandemic, to be penalized for GPA and scholarship opportunities. So we're looking, and we're always going to side on the side of the students. It's not their fault, and necessarily something that we need to find ways to address and help them.
Yeah. And related to everything we're talking about, really, from YouTube, Ashutosh Tawari is asking, how do you think the education curriculum and syllabus will, I think he's saying, catch up after COVID-19? He's referring to this issue of, normally you have a summer slide, 3 months of not only going to school, but potentially forgetting or loss. Now you have 5 months. We've seen some data that might lead, if kids aren't engaged over that 5 months, to as much as a year of lost learning. So kids are going to come at the beginning with even bigger gaps, bigger variation. What's your thinking there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question and great comment. I know the data was released. NWA released their data this morning on their COVID-19 slide, which is startling. I've been on the phone. I was with them on the phone yesterday. And last week with Chris Minnick, and his team. One of the things that we're looking at is to prepare for the restart. And using some of the federal stimulus dollars that are coming in, which is going to be very helpful. Is it going to be, so the team is looking at the standards that we've missed in this marking period. So then, how do we embed them in the first semester? Is it extending the day? It's opportunities in the summer. So we'll have a plan in place in the coming week. On what we're going to be able to do for our students to catch them up, because it really is startling. And when I looked at it and the pushback, not a pushback, I think it was really when I looked at the data on the average student from NWA, and I think the equity gaps, and that's what keeps me up at night, because I think when you look at the equity gaps for our children living in poverty, our English language learners, I think it's going to be a greater slide for them.
Yeah. Just want you to know you're getting a lot of very positive feedback from several folks on YouTube, on Facebook. On Facebook, Shelley Fox said, I love that you're reaching out to seniors for input and ideas. Thank you for your leadership. And then from YouTube, Beautiful Bex wrote, I think it's amazing how he's getting student input for the seniors. I hope my school does that. So a lot of kudos there, Dr. Jara.
Well, thank you.
And so there's another question here. Let me see if I can find it again. It sounds like a parent. Oh, there you go. From YouTube, Jen Mills, and this is a question I've been getting a lot, although I have very little expertise here. How are you handling special education? My son is autistic and our district is not organized. Yeah, how are y'all thinking about that?
Well, and I'll just to defend of the district, I think there was a lot of different information coming to us early from the U.S. Department of Education, and it was just really moving very, very swiftly and changing. So my team did a great job in working with the Council of Great City Schools. We put a document together. It's really, we're using the virtual world, obviously, because as we said, we have a stay-at-home order. So our special education educators are reaching out through whether they have Google Meets, or whether it's a video conferencing, or if not, there's no technology, it's a phone call, video conferencing to provide the services. I'll be honest, some of the bigger challenges that we're seeing is when we have we can do the support there from our teachers and our support staff that helps our kids. One of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is when we have the occupational therapy and the physical therapy, we have to put our hands on our students. So that's one of the things that we're being challenged. So I want to really for the school system, wherever you are, it's just been a moving target and a challenge for us as well.
Yeah. No, I could imagine. So there's so many questions. We're going to have you on again soon. But maybe to close out, there's a lot of doom and gloom out in the world today, and a lot of unanswered questions. But you kind of hinted at it. Maybe there's silver linings that as we go through this very suboptimal situation, there might be things that we come out maybe better for, or different at least. Curious to get your thoughts. What's your message for any parents and teachers and students listening from Clark County, or as a proxy for other people's superintendents? What would you like to tell them?
Well, I just be patient, which is a message I've shared with our community, Sal, and everyone. Just be patient. This is unprecedented times. We don't know, and we're going to make mistakes. It's hard. As I'll tell you, as I do and hope, and I know my colleague superintendents, they're going to make the best decisions that they think is the right decision on behalf of their families and students. So just be a little patient. It's hard work. As I see the future, I think this is going to force us to say, education is going to look different. What that looks like, I don't know. Our teachers I'll tell you, our hardworking teachers, and I think our teachers, our educators, have jumped right in and on behalf of our kids, trying to do the best they can. So, looking forward to the future and what that looks like. We don't know what that is, but it'll be exciting for our kids. That's the silver lining as I see it.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Jara, as always, it's great to talk to you, and it's an honor to have you all as one of our close partners at Khan Academy. And stay safe and healthy, and keep doing your great work.
I will. Thank you, Sal. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, everyone, I thought that was a super valuable update from Dr. Jara. I just want to thank all of y'all for joining. We hope to continue to do this throughout the closures and maybe beyond every day. Keep your questions coming. And I'll just give another reminder. We are not for profit. If you're in a position to do so, please think about donating to Khan Academy. There's there's URL someplace on the screen, khanacademy.org/donate. And I'll also say, just speaking as one human being to another, whenever I meet folks like Dr. Jara, and we had David Coleman on a couple of days ago, and Bill Gates a couple of days before that, you just see how a lot of folks are stepping up and doing what they can. And, as hard as this situation is, I've been seeing a lot of kind of the best of humanity step up, and we're all going through this together. And it's great to be able to connect with y'all in this way, and hopefully it's making you feel a little less socially distanced. It's definitely helping me with that. And so with that, I will see y'all all tomorrow.